for the presidency
let's
to win him.
Let's ask
There's another controversy that's another constitutional crisis that's already in place. The INEC commission is made up of 13 commissioners. And there has to be a quorum for them to meet. Okay. And they are supposed to meet to be able to, for the chairman to act.
There's an election.
Right now, how many are still existing there? There are only 4. And out of the 4, 1 is been incapacitated. So you have 3. Ordinarily, there should be at least 5 commissioners at any point in time, minimum, to form a quorum. So there can, what I'm telling you right now is that there can be no meeting of INEC. So how does the INEC
So the business of INEC is grounded at
how can INEC function?
Okay, you want to get to Abuja?
I wanted to get Mr. Okoye to respond to this, but let's go ahead.
Now, all of these issues, Mrs. Zachary is not a substantive INEC chairman. So she's in acting capacity. Why should we be making so much trouble over this? Some people would think.
Did you hear what Festus read to you about an acting has the same powers as the substantive? That's clear. However, the appointment of the acting, which the president has the power to do, still has to be in accordance with the law. And I told you that her acting appointment was predicated upon a letter which abridged her tenure, which is against not just the spirit, but even the letter of the Constitution. So her appointment is ab initio unconstitutional, and to that extent is null and void. But even if, for purposes of argument, I want to concede, okay, let us concede that let us just act. By law, her tenure must end on July 21st. And having predicated her appointment, her acting appointment on that tenure, that means on 21st, she will take her baggage and leave INEC office.
Like Jega did
as a functionary, whether chairman
or as acting or whatever.
Now, why I said I'm blaming lack of appointment of Attorney General for this thing is, if the Attorney General was there, because that is the president's direct legal advisor, he would have told the president all these things. Because at times the president might be looking at, that's not the president, because even the Attorney General is still under him.
But the vice president is a professor of law.
That is not his remit. Let me explain something clearly. When the president was in the United States, the vice president acted. There's no way the vice president would act when the president is on seat.
But the vice president can advise.
I'm coming. He has to know before he will advise.
No, can he advise the president?
Of course, he's an executive member. So they advise him, but he has to know first of all. The chances are that this thing wasn't even taken to his table in the first place, but there's no reason to take it to his table, because the president was there at his table. So for the president to have been at his table, it's the president that this thing will come to. It's the president that will deal with it. If it was this past week that the president was in the United States, it would have gone to the table of the vice president, who as a respected senior advocate of Nigeria, not just a senior advocate, a respected one, would have read that and said, this and this and these are the things we ought to do. That did not happen. I'm not blaming the vice president. It's not his remit.
Okay, now let me take you to the question Okelo is asking here on Twitter. He's saying that, he's asking, was Jega INEC commissioner when he was made chairman, that Amina Zachary can be appointed on merit?
Yeah, you were not listening to me. That's why I said the appointment was predicated upon something. Jega was doing his lecture in Abu
predicated, you say.
So they brought him, exactly, they brought him as Jega, Professor Jega, as Professor Jega.
They could have brought Zachary from somewhere.
Commissioner. You see, having brought her up as INEC commissioner.
Exactly.
Here, the same letter, get a copy of that letter from the permanent secretary. It says, your tenure is now assumed to have ended on this date. That is unlawful. That's illegal.
Okay, let's bring in Mr. Okoye. Mr. Okoye, the legal the legal language here is getting stronger, but maybe you can help us with the interpretation. For instance, you talked about the power of the president to appoint, whether it be in acting capacity or substantive, based on the Interpretation Act. Now, Mr. Didika brought up an issue about the letter that appointed Mrs. Zachary in the first place, seeking to amend the Constitution by abridging her tenure. ending it June 30th. Is that part of the reason why we are where we are?
Well, I think yes, I agree. I agree because people are not really looking at the law the way it ought to be looked at. If you look at section 156, subsection 2 of the Constitution, more particularly the proviso to section 156, subsection 2, it provides that the moment somebody is within the confines of a particular institution, this type of institution, and the person is appointed to act in that particular capacity, that the person's appointment in the other institution is due to have come to an end from the date of the appointment. For instance, it says very clearly that provided that where such person has been duly appointed, he shall, on his appointment, be deemed to have resigned his former office as from the date of the appointment. So I think that if we look at some of these things very, very clearly, we can see that some of these things have been done in accordance with the Constitution. I agree with my learned colleague that one, that the institution of the Independent National Electoral Commission is a very fundamental institution within our democratic framework, and it should be preserved and protected. That is one. I also agree with him that it is also important for us to move quickly and have a substantive chair for that particular office, because the moment you say somebody is acting, there is a psychological limitation on the person's head that, oh, I can go at any time. So there is a limit to what I can do, and there's a limit to what I cannot do. The third issue is that I also agree that it is time for the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to appoint an Attorney General of the Federation. If you know, the Attorney General of the Federation is the only ministerial position that is constitutionally mentioned and its functions clearly delineated. This is because the Attorney General is a very, is more or less like the spinal cord of the government. It is the one that advises all ministries, agencies, and parastatals of government, including the president himself.
Okay,
on the constitutional issues.
If I may come in here, so that we can tidy this up real quickly, because we're almost out of time. You've settled the issue of the letter. I have the Constitution, and let me just read it. 156(2). Any person employed in the public service of the Federation shall not be disqualified for appointment as chairman or member of any of such bodies, provided that where such person has been duly appointed, shall on his appointment be deemed to have resigned from his former office. So you took care of that. But the issue of quorum, of INEC, right now there are just about 4 national chairmen. They're supposed to be at least national commissioners. Forgive me, national commissioners. They're supposed to be at least 5 for INEC to even seat. So Mrs. Zachary, who's there now, can't, by reason of this, do anything. What should be done? Real quick, please.
I think that what we need to do at this point in time is that the president should move quickly and appoint national commissioners and also appoint resident electoral commissioners, because over 15 resident electoral commissioners have left. So there's a complete vacuum in terms of the INEC membership in the states and also at the national level. So I think that the president should consider this as a national emergency and move in quickly. If the president feels that the acting a chairperson of the Independent National Electoral Commission as of today is the person that meets his own remit of integrity and competence, he should move quickly and make it substantive, and also appoint substantive national commissioners and resident electoral commissioners. If, on the other hand, he feels that there are some other considerations, he should also move and appoint whoever he deems fit to occupy those positions. I think that that is the right thing to do, and the time to do it is now, and it should be done quickly so that we can have full complement of national commissioners and resident electoral commissioners, and INEC be run as a full institution on its own.
All right, thank you. Let's get the quick closing remarks from the political analyst and the lawyer.
Well, I would like to advise the president to move quickly to appoint a substantive chairperson for INEC. I would also like to advise him that going by the controversy that has attended the Ajia Zakari acting, whatever, he should please look elsewhere in the interest of democracy, in the interest of Nigeria, and in the interest of the electoral process. He should look for somebody who is not encumbered by all of these. You are this, you are that, you ought to be this, you ought to be that, and all that. And let somebody come in like Jega did and continue the good work which Jega started.
Okay,
INEC is one of the very few, if not the only institutions that had actually delivered. At least we give INEC pass mark. Such ought to be continued. All these controversies surrounding appointment of acting and non-acting. Look at what just happened in Nimasa. You appoint somebody today, 2 days after, you remove him. And as if, what is going on? So please, the president should get more serious with governance and make appointments that he has thought out and not be flip-flopping.
All right.
It's not good for our democracy.
Thank you, Mr. Odilika, legal practitioner. Thank you for coming. Mr. Dele Ashiru, a political analyst. Thank you. And Festus Okoye, who is the Executive Director, Human Rights Monitor, who joined us from our Abuja studios. Thank you for coming as well. Sunrise will be back in a moment. Please don't go away.